All right, it's a Tuesday night. Raj is in the house. It's the Pig in a Pickle Krug Show, and it gets rolling right now. All right, big Tuesday night on the Krug Show. Hope everybody's having a great December the 17th. We're brought to you by Pig in a Pickle. The best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. And they do run out. So go say hi to Damon and Mary. Get some brisket chili. Tell them the Krug sent you. We're also brought to you by Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles. They're at 205 Cypress Avenue in Pacific Grove, California, along the Monterey Peninsula. Thanks to our good friend Anthony Catania. He's at 831-521-5264. And, of course, last but certainly not least, this live stream sponsored by Better, the official daily fantasy sponsor of the Krug Show. Use Better to make daily fantasy lineups and win real money. Download the app below. Make sure you use the promo code Niners and get your first deposit matched up to $200. And thanks to Better for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. All right, Raj, good to see you, man. How are you?
I'm good. Good to see you too, man. How's everything going over there?
You know, things are good. Man, Thursday night was a kick to the gut. Oh, that was so difficult. And then, you know, the fact that Campbell wouldn't go in and, you know, getting rid of him, and then the 49er offense just played awful. And then, you know, it was bad enough watching that game in real time, but it was worse upon the rewatch when I looked at Brock Purdy on that crushing interception. I mean, that was just a terrible mistake. He had three guys. They were basically taking away the deep third of the field. They had all of their defenders in the deep third. He was literally staring at three underneath weapons that were all wide freaking open. And he had a rusher in his face. I don't think that he ever really saw JJ or the defender. And he just floated it out there. And with the season on the line, it was just like 50-50 ball, like go make a play, like it was fourth down and he was just putting it up because he'd rather put it up than take a sack. It's like, dude, the whole value proposition of Brock Purdy is that he is going to be a good decision maker. And I'll just say this right now. If he's not a good decision maker, he's not a good football player because he doesn't have a big arm. It's not like he's he's not like he's throwing lasers. He's got to make good decisions. Otherwise, his value is, falls apart. The value of Brock Purdy is that the ball comes out on time. He throws it with accuracy. He processes what he sees pre-snap at the line of scrimmage, and he makes good decisions. But in this game, he literally threw up an interception, and he made a terrible decision, and any other decision that he made on the play would have been a better decision. Yeah. Everybody was open underneath. Nobody was open deep, and then he overthrew JJ, and he never really had a good look at it. So there's been an awful lot of talk about Brock Purdy and what you would pay him and what you wouldn't. We'll play a Brian Baldinger cut here in a minute where Baldy's like, go with Darnold. Go get Darnold. Screw going with Brock Purdy. Go with Darnold. By the way, West Virginia is now getting beat in the Frisco Bowl. The Scooter Coffee Frisco Bowl is 28-14 Memphis on top of West Virginia. And I had the over, so I'm feeling pretty good about that. That's a lot of scoring right before the half. Anyway, but let's talk a little bit about Kirk Cousins, because today the Atlanta Falcons benched Kirk Cousins. And, of course, because of Kyle Shanahan's relationship with Kirk Cousins, there's going to be a lot of speculation about the 49ers having interest in Kirk Cousins. And it's interesting that Raheem Morris, the head coach of the Falcons, I mean, the Falcons are in the playoffs. They just beat the Raiders. They snapped a 4-game losing streak, but Cousins was fucking awful. He was 11 of 17 for 112 yards and a touchdown and a pick. He's got 9 interceptions and 1 touchdown in his past 5 games. So playoffs or no playoffs, alive or dead, the Falcons are like, screw that. We're going to Michael Penix. So Michael Penix Jr. is the new starting quarterback of the Atlanta Falcons, and Kirk Cousins, who's 36, is headed to the bench. He's got 18 touchdowns, but he's also got an NFL high 16 interceptions, and he also has got 12 fumbles, which is the most in the NFL. So 12 fumbles, 16 picks. He's got 28 turnovers. That's a lot of turnovers for a 36-year-old quarterback. Cousins, of course, was signed by the Falcons coming off a torn right Achilles that ended his season in Week 8 last year, and they signed him to a 4-year, $180 million contract. $100 million of that is guaranteed, though most of the money comes off the books by 2026. The Falcons are going to pay him $62.5 million this season. So in steps Penix, who's 24. He led the Huskies to the national championship game last year, and then the Falcons took him 8th overall in the first round. So I love Penix. I think Penix has got one of the greatest arms I've ever seen, and I think he's going to be a really good quarterback. But that brings us back to Kirk Cousins and Brock Purdy. If he were traded, $27.5 million of his base salary would go to the team that trades for him. So if the Niners traded for him, they're getting $27.5 million of his base salary. If the Falcons just cut him, they're going to take a $65 million cap hit.
Man.
If he was dealt, Atlanta would only, at that point, they would only be responsible for $37.5 million. So
Right.
they would much rather trade Kirk Cousins than cut Kirk Cousins. I can't imagine when you're looking at that kind of savings on the cap from $65 million dead cap hit to $37.5, that alone might be what they get in return. Like they may get nothing in return for Kirk Cousins. I don't think Kirk Cousins is going to bring anything, especially since the team that's going to take him on is going to have to take on a 36-year-old quarterback who just played horrendous football. But you never know, because Kyle Shanahan's original plan when he took over the Niners was go with Kirk Cousins. It didn't work out. They went with Garoppolo, and now they're with Brock Purdy, and Cousins has moved from Minnesota to Atlanta. What do you think? Would you rather have Kirk Cousins? Would you rather have Brock Purdy? And do you think that Kyle Shanahan is still a Kirk Cousins fan? If Purdy, the talk coming out of Tom Pelissaro was that Purdy's agent, Kyle Strongton out of Nashville, is going to ask for top of the market money, $60 to $65 million a year. If the Niners say, you know what? No, we're not paying you $60 to $65 million a year, Brock's probably going to say, trade me. Brock's probably going to say, I'm holding out. They're probably going to be at an impasse. I find it really hard to believe, Raj, that the 49ers are going to pay Brock $60 million off of this season. What happens if his agent demands $60 or $65 million? And would the Niners move off of Brock, and would they try to pick up Cousins for cheap? As I said, you might be able to get Cousins for nothing, just the fact that you're willing to take on the money. What do you think?
Yeah, a lot of good questions there. First and foremost, yeah, Kirk Cousins is beyond washed. I mean, this guy, he's 36, like you mentioned. He's got all the turnovers, like you mentioned, 26, 28 turnovers there this season. He's just been a statue of himself. He's also coming off an Achilles injury, just like Aaron Rodgers. You could see a quarterback coming off that injury. He's just not the same. 36-year-old, he's slow, he can't move in the pocket. And the 49ers, one of their biggest issues is offensive line. If they keep the same O-line, which I hope they don't, Kirk Cousins is going to die back there. So no, don't get Kirk Cousins. Don't trade for him. A, that's the dumbest thing you could do. B, do I think Kyle Shanahan still loves Kirk Cousins? I'm pretty sure he sent him a text after the announcement and said, you okay, big boy? I guarantee you they're still friends. They still talk. That's his guy. But just because it's his guy, years ago it was, and it kind of messed this team up because they wouldn't got Brian Hoyer because they couldn't get Kirk Cousins. They had to go plan B, Jimmy Garoppolo. You ended up drafting Solomon Thomas. We know the history. That was years ago. It's not going to happen again. I think Kyle legitimately found the guy that he wants to build his team around, Brock Purdy. But the question becomes, how much is his worth? And you mentioned it earlier when the Niners were in a go-ahead moment. They could have salvaged that game, salvaged the season. You still had a chance to beat the Rams. As bad as they played, you go out there, you could have scored a field goal, but, you blew it. You threw it to Jennings. Those type of plays, those type of moments are why fans are questioning Brock Purdy. Ever since Baltimore, he's been a shell of himself. He hasn't looked good. He's kind of regressed. Teams maybe have figured him out. Can't get the deep pass. He's not as accurate as we thought he was. I love Brock. The story's great. Mr. Irrelevant. But the reality is he worth top money? And that's going to be the discourse of the whole entire offseason is I'm pretty certain the Niners are going to lowball him, give him the Baker Mayfield contract, maybe $45 million, which is fair. You were the last pick in the draft. To get $45 million is amazing. But then the problem is you look at the market, Larry. Tua, Lawrence, Dak, all those guys are like top of the market. And you have to
He's better than all of those guys.
He's better than those guys. So, yes, based on the market value and who's getting paid, you probably have to pony up and pay Brock Purdy that much. But is he essentially worth it? No, but that's how the market has kind of fell in place. And that's how the NFL works. Oh, it's the next guy up. You got to pay him. Like Brandon Ayuk last year. The Niners tried not to pay him that $30 million. They knew his value was probably closer to 26. But there was the agent pushing and shoving, and they couldn't get rid of him. And ultimately, they had to pay him the $30 million. I see something like that happening. But you said something very key is the agent's going to say, trade me. That's where I think this differs from Brandon Ayuk. I think teams actually wanted Brandon Ayuk. I don't think teams are going to want to watch Brock Purdy. I know we love him. Niner fans love him. He knows the system in the Niners. I don't think GMs are knocking on the door of the 49ers to get Brock Purdy. I know people are going to hate me for that, but I don't think they are.
Why? You mean because of the money? Because of the money that he's going to want?
The media.
Or is it because he has four? I mean, here's the bottom line. Here are the players that make over $50 million. Hurts, Jackson, Herbert, Goff, Tua, Lawrence, Love, Burrow, Prescott. Those, let's see, 9 quarterbacks make between 51 million Hurts to 60 million Prescott. If he's going to reset the market, he's going north of 60 million. Now, here's the one thing about this. None of these guys have done anything. I mean, look at Dak Prescott's 2-5 in the playoffs. He's never won a ring. Joe Burrow is actually good in the playoffs, 5-2 in the playoffs, but he has never won a ring. In his 35-30-1 career in the regular season. Jordan Love is 1-1 in the playoffs, no rings. Trevor Lawrence never made to the playoffs. Or no, I should say he's 1-1 in the playoffs, no rings. 22-38 in the regular season. Tua Tagovailoa, 0-1 in the playoffs, no rings. Jared Goff, $53 million a year, 4-4 in the playoffs, no rings. Justin Herbert, $52.5 million. He's 38-38 career. He started one playoff game. He's 0-1. Lamar Jackson, $52 million contract. No Super Bowl rings. He's 2-4 in the playoffs. Jalen Hurts, $51 million. No rings for him. 2-3 in the playoffs. So then you look at Brock Purdy and you're like, well, he's 23-11 in the regular season. And he's 4-2 in the playoffs. And he has been to a Super Bowl. So, and he's 24. And he's healthy and he's a good guy. He's not a police blotter guy. He's not a bad guy.
No,
so I guess I would disagree. I think there'll be lots of people that will be interested in him. I just don't know that they're going to be interested in that money.
Yeah, I don't think, and that's the thing. If the agent's saying we need north of 50, I just don't think I don't see teams valuing him as much as Niner fans. Like Niner fans, he's the Messiah. And I like Brock. It's not that I don't like him, but I just don't see other teams valuing him.
But isn't that market value? Isn't that market value, Raj? I mean,
I don't think I guarantee you.
How do you not pay how do you not pay him? How do you not pay him when he's done more than Tua? He's done more than Lawrence. He's done more than Hurts. He's done more than all these guys.
He had the offensive player of the year around him. He did have great, You have to put that into consider. This is going to be the talks that the agents are going to have, and then the Niners are going to fire back. Well, we did have
Tua's
Debo.
got Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, but Tyreek Hill's washed up now, and he has. Look at the Niners and everybody. This all I'm saying is this was what the media is going to throw at you. This is what the Niner front office is going to say. Hey, we did have Kittle, we did have Ayuk, who wasn't there last year, and all these ample players. And I just think you take the Niner goggles off. You got to take your Niner goggles off, Larry. I absolutely love this team. I just think that other teams don't value Brock Purdy as a $50 million quarterback. Is he making those throws that Joe Burrow's making? Is he making the plays that Josh Allen's doing with he got rid of Stephon Diggs and the team's better. Like, he doesn't necessarily have a wide receiver one. That offense is unbelievable. So in my opinion, I don't value Brock as Joe Burrow, as Josh Allen. Lamar, yeah, he has to play Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. It's unfair to him.
Nobody does. Nobody thinks he's Joe Burrow or Josh Allen. But is he Dak? Is he Trevor? Is he Tua? Is he Goff?
That's the problem. He's better than them, but the market is crazy because it's just teams get so used to saying, okay, this is the market. We have to pay him. Just because those guys were, I guess, dumb enough to pay those quarterbacks doesn't mean the Niners have to. And that's what I'm saying.
Okay, let's play it out then. Raj, let's play it out. I'm Brock's agent and you're the Niners. Okay. I want top of the market money. I want $60 million.
We're not giving.
And you're the 49ers. And what do you say?
I'm saying we're not giving you $60 million. That's great. Go find a team that
okay, so then he says, you know what? If you're not going to pay me the market rate, despite the fact that my client's 4-2 in the playoffs and has been to a Super Bowl, if you're not willing to pay me market rate, then we want out, or we're going to hold out.
Okay.
So now, do you see what I'm saying? Do you see the problem here?
I understand, and they should pay him.
The Niners may have to sacrifice next season to get the deal they want, and they're not going to sacrifice next season.
But the thing is, Larry, you pay him $60 million, you're not returning a lot of play. You're Dre Greenlaw, Hufunga, kiss him goodbye. Kiss your offensive line goodbye. You're crippling your team. In my opinion, you crippled the team. That's the way I look at it. But I like Brock.
Philly.
He's a franchise quarterback. But you don't.
I mean, these other teams. All I'm saying is, like, Philly found a way to pay Hurts, and they have a good team. Baltimore found a way to pay Lamar. They have a really good team.
Well, because teams were stupid. Look at Derrick Henry. That was like Titans trash. And look at it. They took him for nothing. The Giants were so stupid to get rid of Saquon Barkley. They lucked out on people being so stupid in this league that they benefited from it. That's how they lucked out.
Okay, so we all know what we want, but it's the old Rolling Stones song. You can't always get what you want, but if you try sometimes, you find you get what you need. That's how that song goes. So let's carry it out. I'm Brock's agent. I want top of the market money. You're the 49ers. You say no. I say I want to be traded or I'm holding out. What are you going to do? You're now right, Prague. What are you doing? You trading me? You're going to let him hold out? You're going to have him hold out and get nothing?
What team would you like to get? I don't think you get much value out of Brock anyways in a trade. So both sides are kind of at a standstill. I think, and that's why I think.
Really? You don't think Purdy would acquire you would bring you anything in a trade?
Maybe a third, fourth round pick. I really don't think teams value him that. Yeah, Larry. I'm taking away the Niner goggles and objectively looking at what other teams. I see what other teams say. I see what other media markets say. They don't value him like us. I love Brock. I think he's amazing. I just don't think other teams value him that. He's got an average arm.
Media people.
You said it to me that he couldn't throw that pass to John Jennings.
But look at all the football people that like Brock. It seems like all the people that are ripping Brock are generally not coaches, players, or executives. It seems like it's always media people. Seems like if there's anybody who has respect for Brock, it's players and coaches and executives. I don't know. I'll say this. This year's draft is a draft that has no quarterbacks that are risk-free. They're all very risky. Yeah. Shedeur Sanders, nobody knows if he's going to be any good. You could make an argument that Cam Ward is literally Brock Purdy. So, I mean, it's like he's literally the same guy. I mean, they both, he's got arm strength issues. He's got some mobility. He's got some moxie. He's kind of a playmaker. I mean, they're very, very, very similar guys. He's 6'1". He's not the biggest guy. Doesn't have the biggest hands. I don't know. I mean, I'm just saying that's what the Raiders and the New York Giants are going to be looking at the top of the draft. Are you telling me that the New York Giants would rather take that rookie quarterback than a sure thing in Brock Purdy?
Yeah, because the New York Giants, look, I just told you they got rid of Saquon Barkley. They got rid of everybody. And getting Brock Purdy. I know he's on a contract for one more year. He's got like $1 million. But if you're going to give him the extension, you have to pay him that top of the market contract. Do you think they want to do another Danny Dimes situation where they get a quarterback, but maybe they don't believe in him and you're paying him all this money? They can take the rookie, build him for 4 years. I think also marketability, if they were to go after Shador in New York with Coach Prime, that is what they're thinking. They're thinking about putting butts in the seats, because this team is terrible. The Giants are an absolute dog trash team. You think Brock Purdy's putting butts in their seats? I don't see it. I think Shador's going to sell you tickets. I don't think Brock Purdy's selling tickets in New York.
I don't know, man. I kind of disagree. I think Shador isn't very good, and
I don't think so either. But the allure of Shador and Prime. Look what they did in Colorado.
I'm not even 100% convinced the Giants are going to get that pick.
They had these superstars in the stadium watching the game. That's what he's going to attract. New York wants the money. Brock Purdy's not putting those guys in the seats. I love Brock Purdy, but they're not selling tickets. Shador, he might be a bust, Larry, but he's selling tickets.
Yeah, but you also have Malik Neighbors, and there's a sizable investment there, and you're going to go with a young receiver and a super young quarterback.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how teams value Shador. I don't know how teams value Brock. I don't know what Brock would get, but my guess is he's getting more than a third or a fourth round draft choice. That would be my guess. But let's carry it out. So I'm Brock's agent. I want top of the market money. You're the 49ers. You don't want to pay me top of the market money. Now what?
We better figure out who else is going to be a quarterback. Because if you're so hell bent,
showing up, I'm not playing for peanuts just because you want to pay me peanuts.
Yeah, no. So then
I have a better resume. I am 4-2 in the playoffs. Jalen Hurts is 2-3 in the playoffs. Lamar Jackson is 2-4 in the playoffs. Justin Herbert has never won a playoff game. Jared Goff is 500 in the playoffs. Tua has never won a playoff game. Trevor Lawrence is 500 in the playoffs. Jordan Love is 500 in the playoffs. Dak Prescott is 2-5 in the playoffs. I am 4-2 in the playoffs and have been to a Super Bowl. And I'm not a police blotter guy. I'm a leader. I'm a hard worker. My teammates love me.
Absolutely,
so there's a lot of value there. So
that's true.
I think that you can say, hey, you know what, Brock? We're not going to pay you $65 million. I think you can get away with that. Okay. But if you try to go south of 50, nope.
I think that's fair. Okay. I think because, like you said, he's done all that great stuff and he's proven himself. Yeah. He's worked himself up.
So if that's the number, Raj, if that's the number, let's just say, because we're just having a theoretical discussion, but let's just say,
I think that's fair.
Let's just say, even though his agent is dreaming for 65. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's just say, no way, no how. But then let's just say his agent says, well, look, we can talk all day and all night, but we are not going a nickel under Jalen Hurts. We believe we are the same player as Jalen Hurts, and that we want $51 million. Okay, so that's what he's demanding. He's demanding $51 million, or he will not show up. He will not play. Then you're going to have to deal with a holdout and no quarterback. Whatever you could sign off the street.
Yeah.
So how do you want to play your hand if Kyle Strongton says, you know what, it's $51 million. We will go from 65 to 51, but we will not go a penny under 51. And I wouldn't. I'm like, if I was him, I'd draw my line right there, and I'm not going underneath that because I'm better than Hurts. So 51 million, that's what I want. Okay. Or would you rather pay Brock 51 million and everything that goes along with that and try to build around Brock Purdy as your $51 million quarterback. And I don't know how many years. Let's just say, for the sake of the conversation, that it's 3 years. It's 3 years, $153 million, 51 a year for 3 years. And let's just say it's all guaranteed. I mean, we're just spitballing, but let's just say that's the deal. Okay. What do you do? I mean, I looked at the Niners options today and I thought, okay, what are all the options? You can sign Brock for the $51 million that his agent wants. You can try to trade Brock and sign maybe Sam Darnold as a free agent. But the question I would have is, why is Sam Darnold cheaper? Isn't Sam Darnold going to cost you the same? Why is Sam Darnold somehow cheap after he just went 12-4? So I think, you may have to pay Sam Darnold the same. Then you could trade for Kirk Cousins if you want, but he's 36. And as we said, he's 83-74-2 career. He's 1-3 in the playoffs. You could trade Brock and your pick in the first round if you yourself believed in Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward, right? I mean, if you really thought Cam Ward was a Lamar Jackson or Shedeur Sanders was some awesome player, you could do that. I mean, if you were convinced that those guys were stars, they were going to be elite, then of course you would do that. You probably would do that. But then there's the other options. You can sign a reclamation project quarterback, Mac Jones, Zach Wilson, Daniel Jones, Justin Fields. Those are probably the most attractive of the reclamation project. Or, and this is one that I threw Grant Cohn earlier today when we did our live stream. Who's a free agent, and it's the only guy that I think the players aren't going to look at you cross-eyed. Like, if you get rid of Brock Purdy and you bring in Kirk Cousins, I think there's a bunch of people in that room are going to look at you like, what? You just got rid of 24-year-old Brock Purdy for 36-year-old Kirk Cousins coming off of a nightmarish year? They're going to look at you like, John Lynch, you're high. Okay. That's if you traded for Kirk Cousins and said goodbye to Purdy. Okay. But guess what? There would probably be some guys in the room that would be like, you're high if you got rid of Brock Purdy and brought in Sam Darnold. And then there's going to be a bunch of non-believers if you try to go from Brock Purdy to Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward. That's for sure. And there would be a ton of skeptics in that room if the Niners try to go, oh, goodbye, Brock. Hello, Mac Jones. Yeah, goodbye, Brock. Hello, Daniel Jones. Goodbye, Brock. Hello, Zach Wilson. Even if they love Shanahan, even if they love Lynch, even if they're all in on the duo and the regime, they're still going to be like, wait a second, we got rid of Brock Purdy for Mac Jones?
Yeah.
We got rid of Brock Purdy for Zach Wilson, Daniel Jones. There's going to be a lot of people looking at you crazy. Yeah. The one guy who's a free agent this offseason that you could sign, and I really believe that there wouldn't be any pushback in the room, is Russell Wilson, who is a free agent, and he's 37. He's won a ring. A lot of people thought he was bad in Seattle. He went to Denver. He had a bad year there. A lot of people thought he was done. He went to Pittsburgh, and with a good organization, he's kind of had a reclaiming of his career. He's a future Hall of Famer. He is 37 next year. So it's not like you're going from 24 to 37, which makes a lot of people unhappy and uneasy. But you are going from a good quarterback that you like to a future Hall of Famer.
So no, man, we ain't taking Rod. No.
So what do you think? I mean, if I did not include an option in there that is an option, please remind me. But that's what I see the options are. $50 million for Purdy, or you trade Purdy and you go sign Sam Darnold, trade for Kirk Cousins, trade up for Cam Ward, trade for Mac Jones, or sign Russell Wilson. I mean, if there's more options than that, let me know. But those are the options. And to me, I would rather sign Brock Purdy for $50 million for 3 years and build around him than go with Sam Darnold, even if he's cheaper, or rather do that than trade for Kirk. And I think I'd rather do that than trade Brock and my number one pick, trying to get Cam Ward, even though I love Cam Ward. I think I'd do that over Mac Jones, Zach Wilson, Daniel Jones, Justin Fields. But the one move, if Kyle and John were like, you know what, we're gonna go for Russell Wilson. We're gonna pay him a fraction of what Brock's agent was demanding. We're gonna trade Brock for some picks, and we're gonna try, because who knows? The one thing we don't know, Raj, we don't know if Jed has come to them and said to them, you got a year, you got 2, you got 3. They don't. I mean, one thing we'd know for sure, it's the NFL. You don't get forever. So they don't have forever. And they haven't won the Super Bowl yet. It's possible that they only have 3 or 4 more years. And if they only have 3 or 4 more years, if somebody told me you only have 3 more years, you got to win the Super Bowl, and I could get Russell Wilson for cheap and trade Brock Purdy for assets,
Stop it.
That might be what I would choose if I had to win the Super Bowl within like 2 or 3 years.
Russell Wilson's not winning you a Super Bowl. Larry,
he had a pretty good year this year. I'm just saying he had a bounce back year this year.
Okay, really, but that's with Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin's never had a losing season. You knew he was going to have a winning season. And look at the defense. This man has the best defense in the Pittsburgh Steelers over. Larry, someone in the comments
is, I'm just saying Russell. I mean, if you look at Russell's numbers on the year.
No, he's doing good, and I give him credit.
He's had a little bit of a
Justin Fields started the season and he looked okay until the fourth game, and it was like, okay, well, he's Justin Fields.
I don't
Mike
know.
Tomlin's a heck of you got to give Mike Tomlin the O-line, the running game. This man is a hell of a coach. I'm giving Mike Tomlin the credit for making Russell Wilson look good in that team. He's 37 years old. You've given up a 24-year-old quarterback.
I know.
Here's the thing. I told you.
Here are the last couple of years, just so people know. Russell Wilson this year, 13 touchdowns, 3 picks. He's completing 64.7%. Last year,
watch the Eagles game, he got cooked. Did you watch the Eagles game?
Yeah, I did. I mean, that's the number one defensive football right
teams.
Now. That's Fangio in the number 1 D. But I mean, 26 touchdowns and 8 picks last year in Denver. 16 touchdowns and 11 picks his first year in Denver. 25 touchdowns, 6 picks his last year in Seattle. 40 touchdowns and 13 picks his in 2020. 31 and 5 in 2019. So let's see, in the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, in the last 6 seasons, it's not horrible. I mean, 64.7, 66.4, 60.5, 64.8, 68.8. So he's like a mid 60, 65%, completion percentage guy.
He's been a great quarterback. I give him, he's a Hall of Famer, but I'm not taking Russell Wilson out of frac just because you want to save money. Like, here's the thing. I like Brock. I'm not paying him $60 million. If he wants 50, that's probably going to get it done 51, because what the options this offseason are, you go get a young quarterback. You're not going to trade up again and do what you did for Trey Lance, because these quarterbacks are probably in that Trey Lance realm. Like, it doesn't look like a good quarterback class. Don't throw away your future again.
And you can't do that. You can't
make that same mistake. Okay.
Well, and you don't have that kind of time, I don't think, anymore.
Yeah, you can't do that mistake, because you said the window's small. You can't put another rookie quarterback on this team, because here's the thing. Leaders like Fred Warner, George Kittle. You think George Kittle wants to play with another quarterback? This man's been through quarterback hell. Like, this is why they're going to keep Brock Purdy. Again, I hope it's not 60, but whatever the case is, they're going to have to pay him, because they're going to have a stranglehold, the agent and Brock, because George Kittle does not want to play with another quarterback. I don't care if his name's Russell Wilson, Kirk Cousins, Larry Krueger, Raj Malwani. He's not playing with another quarterback. This man's got maybe 2 more years on his career. He's went through every quarterback you can imagine. Nick Mullins, CJ Beathard, Brian Hoyer, Jimmy G, Trey Lance, and now Brock Purdy. Let this man have a regular, like, one quarterback. So that's one of it. And then 2 is, there's no good options. You're really going to go get Kirk Cousins, who's 36 with the Achilles injury. You're going to get Russell Wilson, who's 37 years old, and being made to believe he's good. He's not. Mike Tomlin, I'm giving him all the credit for that. I'm paying Brock, unfortunately, the $50 million, which is a lot, but I think that's your safest option. You don't want to have to go through the whole quarterback drama again. You took Jimmy Garoppolo, Trey Lance. You finally found Brock. You're going to pay him. And if Kyle's your coach, that's his guy. So you just got to figure out. I do think it's going to be like a weird a contract situation like it usually is. I think they're going to lowball him, and they're going to be like, nope, we want this much. They'll get closer. And then finally they'll like, oh, okay, they agreed on a deal. It's going to be a weird situation. And there are going to be rumors where, oh, the Niners are looking to Kirk. And I think those rumors are going to come out to put some pressure on Brock to say, hey, sign now because we can go sign Kirk. Sign now because we can go sign Sam Darnold. Like those rumors will come out, but I think it's to put pressure on Brock Purdy in his camp. But ultimately, I think Brock's going to sign. And I think you're right. 51 is probably the magic number.
Man, you cannot have, I mean, the whole thing is you're gambling with so much here because you can't have a holdout. I mean, if your quarterback holds out, your season's done.
Yes,
Would you admit? Yeah. So, I mean, you can't have a holdout. So, I don't know. They're in a tough spot. They're in a tough spot. Let's hear Baldy. Baldy was really good today. He was on the game on Bonte and Shasky, and he wants Darnold. Listen to this. Here's Baldy.
Baldy, I'll ask you directly, and we'll get back into the rest of the team because Greenlaw, Debo, I mean, there's so much to talk about. If John Lynch came to you and said, hey, Brian, I know you watch every single week, and you watch all these other quarterbacks around the league. Brock is demanding top 5 money. What do we do here? What would your advice to him be?
I'd say I'd go flip him for Sam Darnold right now.
Wow.
I mean, so Minnesota, look, let's just think about Sam for a second. You sat there as a backup all year. He learned what first-class franchise game planning, how to build a team. Like he saw that for the first time in his life. Now he's with Kevin O'Connell, who's an elite play caller with a very, very good offense that has a real style to it, and he's flourishing. And Minnesota doesn't have to commit anything to him right now. All they're doing, I talked to the general manager 2 weeks ago, Quezzy, and just to play it out. They've got a quarterback they drafted. They don't have to give them top flight money, or they could trade him. Like I would be having a conversation with Minnesota to see what it would take to get Sam Darnold back. He's a bigger, stronger, more athletic. I don't know, but he's bigger, stronger than what Brock is. Or can you play with both of them at a modicum of salary and afford both and, I don't know, have a competition? I mean, I'd be interested to see what it would take to get Sam Darnold.
All right. The both thing is not possible.
Yeah, that's
right?
not
I mean, we can't go both. I mean,
both.
That both is like, hey, I'd like to have my wife and a girlfriend, something tells me my wife is not going to go for it.
The girlfriend might not either.
Girlfriend's not going to go for it. Wife's not going to go for it. I just get the feeling that I'm going to have a hard time bringing that ship to shore. You know what I mean? It's not going to work. The both isn't going to work. But what do you think? What do you think of Darnold? I mean, here's the thing. Are we overreacting to a down year from Brock? And when I say that, because there's people going, Brock's already better than this guy. Brock's already, and like, hey, first of all, everybody in the chat, breathe. All right. I am probably the biggest Brock Purdy fan there is.
Yeah.
So a lot of this discussion we're having that I had with Grant and that I'm having with Raj, this is really just a healthy catharsis to get through this whole, conversation. I want to retain Brock. I'm a Brock believer. I look at this year and say they backslid because Ayuk backslid and CMC backslid and Debo backslid. And they scored 40 touchdowns last year. And this year they've got 2. And that to me is a huge part of this whole thing. So I'm a big Brock fan. And if it was up to me, I would sign Brock. And then I would probably go into like the veteran market for like a Dalton. And then as a backup and like a real backup. And then I got backup who I thought I could win games with, not a Brandon Allen backup, but an actual backup that I felt like I could win with. And then I want to go in the draft and I want to go get somebody else. And that's my quarterback room. I don't want to go down the Darnold road or Kirk Cousins. But you heard from Baldy there. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I mean, definitely Darnold's played good. I'm going to give Darnold his credit this year. I mean, I didn't expect him to be this good. Fortunate for him and unfortunate for J.J. McCarthy. The injury happened and it opened the door for Sam Darnold. And this was an opportunity for him because he's kind of been a bad quarterback through his career. And I think that's what people remember him as. Jets, that was a terrible situation. Carolina, terrible situation. He goes to the Niners. He kind of resurrected himself. It wasn't like he played great for the Niners, but he did everything he had to do. He learned, he was in a good training camp position. He learned a lot from Kyle and this team. And I think it gave him a new release. Like, hey, I got a second chance. $10 million to be a backup. That's pretty good, right? So he goes into Minnesota. He worked his tail off, and he got an opportunity. He's taking advantage of it. Everybody that gets an opportunity, you want to make the most of it. Brock Purdy, third quarterback on the roster. Nobody thought he was going to ever start. Mr. Irrelevant. The fact that he made the roster was crazy, right? So he gets an opportunity. He made the most of it. You have to make the most of those opportunities in the NFL because sometimes they're very far and few between. Sam Darnold got a third chance, and he's making the most of it. Do I think he's worth top dollar? No, but he should get Baker Mayfield money. I think he should get the $35 to $40 million. That doesn't make sense for the 49ers to get him and Brock. It's one or the other. You can take the cheaper guy, Sam. But if you look at the Minnesota Vikings, like they have a star-studded team. Not saying that the Niners don't, but the Minnesota Vikings didn't really have a lot of injuries, right? They got Justin Jefferson, Addison. They got a great O-line. They got a great defense. Their coach has been really good, probably one of the coaches of the year. So Sam Darnold's in a good position. He's going to parlay himself into a quarterback situation next year. It's going to be a team that takes him and gives him a contract. It's not going to be the Niners. Do I want Sam Darnold? No, but I'm happy for him. Is he better than Brock Purdy? No, because they were on the same team last year. Brock Purdy was the starter. Sam Darnold was his backup. Now, again, Brock Purdy took advantage of his situation, and so did Sam Darnold. There's parallels there, but I'm not taking Sam Darnold on this Niners team. You had him on the roster. You could have brought it. If you liked him that much, you could have kept him. You didn't. So kudos to Sam. He'll find a contract somewhere. I do think the Niners need a better backup because Brandon Allen, that guy's bad. Josh Dobbs, apparently they don't like him. I think at some point you need to figure out who your backup quarterback is. Maybe Danny Dimes. He'll probably be a cheaper guy. There's going to be a lot of quarterbacks that you can look into, but the Niners do need to invest on a backup quarterback. But you can't have Sam Darnold and Brock Purdy on the same team.
Now, I have not spoken to Kyle Strongton, but I have friends who have, and there's no way he's taking that Baker Mayfield contract
For Brock.
Yeah, he's not taking that.
No, there's no way.
He's not taking it if it's all guaranteed. If it's $120 million and it's all guaranteed, he's not taking it.
He wants the big money. That's what
he wants the big money. He's going for the big money. Here before we go with our better lineup of the week. We're going back to 95.7 the game. This is Willard and Dibbs, and they had Kurt Warner on. And Warner, listen to Warner here. We'll react.
Kurt, conversely, I want to ask you about Sam Darnold. A lot of talk about him here because he was here last year. Also, our friend Brian Baldinger came on earlier this morning and said he would try to flip Purdy for Darnold, even though that's not sort of really possible based on their situations. But I do want to ask you about Sam. Why has he suddenly popped and looked so much better, in your opinion?
I mean, the first thing just makes me laugh because, what about the last 2 years with Brock Purdy? I remember I kind of went through since St. Louis too, is that, went to a couple Super Bowls, won a couple MVPs, and then we had a down year after our second Super Bowl. And, and people were asking, well, are you going to, change quarterbacks and whatever? And I just remember Mike Martz at one point in the season going, what, are you guys a part of the amnesia crowd? Like, have you forgot, what happened the last 3 years and how good Kurt was? Like, we're not just going to panic because we've had a bad stretch here. But it's almost like that's what we're doing in San Francisco. Let's forget about these last 2 years because this year hasn't been as good. And then the same with Sam Darnold. Let's forget about everything else he's done in the league because he's been wildly inconsistent. And although he's shown glimpses, he's never been able to put it together. And now he's having this incredible year in Minnesota. And we're all ready to say, oh, let's flop him and let's take this guy because he's having a great year, even though he's never shown the ability to put 2 great years together back to back. So it's so funny how we have such recency bias on so many different things in this league instead of just trying to figure out, okay, who is this guy? Yeah, that's what we need to know. Who is Sam Darnold? Is Sam Darnold the inconsistent up and down guy that we've seen most of his career, or is he the guy that we're seeing this year play with great confidence and being surrounded by great playmakers and being surrounded by a coach that believes in him and setting him up for success in a lot of situations? Is that what we're going to get from Sam Darnold? Is it just now he's matured, he's found the right system, and we're going to see this guy play this way the rest of his career? I don't know the answer to that, but I would have to see it. I would need to see another season like this
before I'm ready to say that's who he is, because we've seen plenty of players in this league that, run into one of those just magical seasons. They have a magical run, in one season. They can win an MVP. They can go to the Super Bowl. Like, all these things can happen in one season. But then what happens is we normally see how this levels out. And you go, oh, okay, they had that one outlier season that was just better than everything else. And the rest of their career, they're this guy. And that's really what you're trying to figure out with all of these quarterbacks. And so Sam, I think, is in a great situation. He's playing really good football. He's surrounded by a lot of really good pieces that have made the game easier for him. And so things have just kind of come together perfectly for Sam this year. But I want to see another year like this, before I'm ready to go, that's the guy. And this is, who we thought he could be. I want to see him stack another season together that's just not quite as perfect, right? The things around him aren't quite as good, and show me that you can still be a similar type player. And now I can invest in something like that.
Kurt,
what do you think, Raj? What do you think? Warner sounds like he's a bigger fan of Purdy than he is of Darnold, and he makes a good point. I mean, his point is, hey, guess what? Yeah, if you're putting everything that you know about all these guys into just this year, fuck yeah, Sam Darnold's better than Brock Purdy.
Yeah,
but there was more to that. We saw them on the same field last year, and Brock taught. I think Darnold is partially the player that he is because he worked with Purdy. Because listening to Darnold talk about it, he was like, I never prepped like that. He learned an intense form of preparation from Brock Purdy and has carried that to Minnesota. And now he's got these awesome receivers, this great offense, this great defense, and he's having a tremendous year. But it's a tremendous individual year. Like, what is Brock? Is Brock, to hear the people that don't like Brock are like, he's been found out, and the guy that he is right now is the guy that he actually is, and the guy that he was before, that was a mirage. And then they're trying to at the same time tell you that the Sam Darnold, these same people were like literally mortally offended when Sam Darnold was placed by Kyle Shanahan in front of Trey Lance on the Niner depth chart last summer.
I remember.
How could that possibly be? And then those same people are like, go get Sam Darnold.
Yeah, it's fun. It's recency, but and it's kind of like I was saying, like Sam's in a good position. And I got to give him his credit. Like, to Sam's credit, he's played great, but it kind of fell in his lap. He's in a good situation, just like Warner said. And I know why Kurt Warner really loves Brock, because he was the underdog, right? Kurt Warner was one of the biggest underdogs in NFL history, and so is Brock. So he roots for him. I think he sees parallels in Brock Purdy that he sees in him. Like, those two guys are very similar in. Nobody knew who the hell they were coming in this league. Yeah, man, Kurt Warner was bagging groceries, right? And then he comes in, and his story is incredible, just like Brock's story. So I think he roots for Brock, but I think he's right. And I saw you do this video I saw this on TikTok. I'm cruising TikTok. I see my boy Larry Krueger, and he goes, what happened last? You guys loved Brock Purdy. You guys loved him. And I see the Lions video in the background. I was like, oh, this is a good video. Kevin did a good job. And I see Larry, why do you hate him this year, but you loved him last year? You would have signed him. So in the same recency bias of Sam Darnold all of a sudden being everybody's favorite, now everybody hates Brock because he's having a bad season. But I do somewhat agree to the point of, ever since that Baltimore game, it's shifted. Like, he hasn't been the same. But I will say, ever since that Baltimore game, like, CMC's starting to get hurt. He would missed a few games in the end of that season. And then this year he missed time. I think the Brandon Ayuk situation, the O-line hasn't been the same. So, yeah, Brock's regressed this season. But again, you don't want to go through the whole quarterback situation again. Try to find another guy. We've literally been trying to find a quarterback for 8 years. They found the guy, pay him. George Kittle's going to be pissed, like I said. But as far as Sam Darnold, he's got two of the best man coverage wide receivers in the NFL. Justin Jefferson and Addison. Come on, man. Like, that is a cheat code right there. And I think Kurt Warner hit the nail on the head that Sam is actually finally comfortable because the game's easy for him. Carolina, anybody to throw to out there. The Jets, that was the most dumpster fire situation that a rookie, he was a rookie quarterback, got thrown into this horrible situation. And the Jets, it's a bad franchise to begin with. So that was a horrible start to his career. He's kind of, went through the fire. He's been through adversity. He's finally learned a lot. I think San Francisco really helped him out from, like you said, Brock and this system. And he learned how to prepare for games. And now he's in a comfortable situation. Larry, I think you would be throwing 4,000 yards if you had Justin Jefferson to throw to. Come on, my guy.
Seriously, if I had JJ, I'd still be in the league. All right, let's get to Better. This live stream is brought to you by Better. That's right. Better is sponsored. This live stream sponsored by Better, the official daily fantasy sponsor of the Krug Show. Use Better to make daily fantasy lineups and win real money. Download the app below. Make sure you use the promo code Niners to get your first deposit matched up to $200. All right, let's take a look at the Niners and the Dolphins coming up this weekend. And let's take a look at Brock Purdy. What are his projections for Sunday? Passing yards, 246.5, 15.5 rushing yards. Ooh, that's a little high. Those are high.
15 yards?
That's a little, well, I would go with the 15.5, but I don't know. I mean, it's like, I don't know. I'm not,
Dolphins aren't that good of a team.
Yeah. I mean, they have no rush. So will they, seems like Brock runs when there's a rush. But let's try. Let's try for 16 rushing yards for Brock Purdy. So we'll go with over that. Who else do we want to go with in this game? What weapon would you like to wager on?
Let's take a look at let's see, where's George Kittle? You got to get the ball to George Kittle.
Let's take a look at Kittle. 59.5 receiving yards.
You would hope that he gets more than that, right?
Okay, let's go more than that. We'll go for 60 receiving yards for George.
Don't take a Deebo Samuel prop bet the rest of this year, but guys.
No, we're not going Deebo. Let's go we got to go to the Dolphins. We got a 1 on the Dolphins. I think this is a big bounce back spot for Tyreek. He was really held in check last week by Stingley Jr., and I think he's going to have a much better day this week. Now, let's see.
You can take him. I'm done with Tyreek. He sold my fantasy.
You don't like Tyreek?
And you go for
that's
it.
That's we have 72.5 receiving yards. I don't like that one. Who else? Let's see. A-Chain. Can the Niners stop the run? 49.5 rushing yards for A-Chain.
Easy. He'll get that.
All right. Let's go more than 49.5 rushing yards for Devin A-Chain. I call him A-Chain, but A-Chain, the former Texas A&M running back. All right. So we got Purdy, 15.5 yards on the run. We have Kittle and we have Achane. So those are our three. And if we go 3 for 3, 49.5 rushing yards on Achane, 59.5 receiving yards on Kittle, 15.5 rushing yards on Purdy. If we go 3 for 3, we're going to put $10 down. We're going to get 4-1 odds. So for $40 if we win. So there we go. Good luck to us. Thanks to Better for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. And I would definitely encourage all of you guys to use Better. You're going to love it. All right. Ambry Thomas was waived today, and he tweeted some unhappiness over the weekend.
I saw that.
And then the Niners cut him today. You know, I mean, what a weird career this guy's had. I believe Adam Peters was the guy that loved him. Yeah. He pounded the table for him. The Niners took him in the 3rd round. He looked like early on like he was going to be a really good player. And it looked like Demo Lenore was going to be the bust. But then Demo found himself, and Ambry never quite found himself. And I'll tell you, I know this didn't get a lot of headlines, but the 49ers have blown now. When you look at these numbers, 20 first, 2nd, or 3rd round draft choices in this era of 49er football. And that's just a ton. Jalen Hurd, Mike McGlinchey, Dante Pettis, Solomon Thomas, Reuben Foster, Akella Witherspoon, C.J. Beathard, Tarvarius Moore, Javon Kinlaw, Trey Lance. That's 10. Then you got to throw on 2 more because of the Lance picks, plus Trey Sermon, plus Ambry, plus Drake Jackson, plus Ty Davis Price, plus Danny Gray, plus Cam Latu, plus Ricky Pearsall. To the moment, at least.
Jair Brown, add him to the list.
Jair Brown, that's 20. If you want to throw Jake Moody in there, that's 21.
Christ, man.
That is 21 misses in the first 3 rounds for this regime. You know how many hits they have? Bosa, Debo, Fred Warner, Brandon Ayuk, Dom Pooney, Renardo Green. They have 20 misses and 6
Oh
hits.
My God, man, that's terrible.
You
bro.
cannot have 75% misses,
That's
which
bad.
is where the Niners are on the first 3 rounds of the draft. We can talk about the injuries this year, and that's true. We can talk about the Super Bowl hangover, and that's true.
bad.
But 20 plus first, second, or third round picks during this regime that you're getting nothing out of is the number one reason the 49ers are where they're at.
Wow. That's a bad that's a I knew it was bad. Like it's so funny you brought that up. I was like making a list of all the draft picks in the first round. But when you go through the first 3 rounds, it is so bad. Like that's why they're where they at, because when your stars get injured, you hope that these depth guys that you drafted can step up. But when your depth guys are bad, you're just not going to play good football. And this year they got hurt, so they've had to rely on these other guys, and we're seeing how flawed they really are. The Cam Latu pick, I mean, it's so bad that they've been wasting their time trying to get a tight end to be a second receiving tight end. Instead, they should have just got a really good blocking tight end or a good O-lineman, so Kittle doesn't have to waste his time on the line, and you can actually utilize this Hall of Fame tight end that you have. But Ambry Thomas, man, this guy, I had high hopes. I love Michigan. I was like rooting for him. Harbaugh, I was like, okay, we got this guy. I thought he was good. And man, this guy was so bad. I mean, credit to him. He saved the season one year, the big interception, his highlight. So everything was looking up for this guy. And I was like, okay, he might be the guy. And you're right. The second season, he just fell off a cliff. And Diamond Lenore put in so much work that offseason. And look at him. He got the contract extension. And Ambry's sitting there tweeting out like, collecting dust. Go ahead and do something, anything. Like, come on, man. What a poor attitude. This team gave him an opportunity. And I will tell you this, through all the years I've been to training camp, because I go every year, I will say hi to my boy Larry. I have watched Ambry Thomas with a fine-tooth comb, because I'm a big cornerback guy, and I've been screaming, go get his cornerbacks, and they finally have been getting some depth. I remember watching this guy year in, year out in training camp, and he was getting yelled at by coaches, and he never would fix his flaws, and they'd still yell at him. Like, this guy was not good at practice, and it translated into the game. So I'm glad they got rid of this guy. I hope somebody signs him, and we can stiff arm him just like CMC did to Kella Weatherspoon last year. That's it.
I kind of wish they had gone with Ambry and not signed Yadam. I kind of wish they had gone with Womack and not signed Rocky Sin.
They should have kept Womack.
I kind of wish they had gone with their youth at corner and not signed the veterans and just seen, I don't think it would have made that big of a difference, but you would have saved some money.
I want to say one more thing. I wish they would have kept Womack, because this guy is having a really good season with the Colts. So they blew that one. I know the injuries, but there was also, they kept Ambry on a roster spot this year until they had to like designate him to an injury reserve. And they lost out on keeping Kingston, the offensive lineman from USC. And that to me, like when they were making their roster, I was like, what are you doing? If you're going to put this guy in IR, just release him. You don't have to I think they wasted that moment. And like Ambry said, I've been collecting dust. I think the Niners botched that by not keeping Kingston. I think he could have been a serviceable guy. And you lost out on Cody Schrader. They could have definitely used Cody Schrader right now, but they kept Ambry Thomas on the roster so they can put him on the injured reserve. He didn't even play, and you lost on 2 guys.
How about last year? You lost Deshaun Jameson, and you kept Matt Pryor, who's just a total nothing backup guard. Could have signed. Nobody was going to sign him. You could have found an equal player to Pryor any week off the street. I mean, that was a gaffe as well. They've made some mistakes. They really have. Dre Greenlaw went on KBR this morning and said he's playing Sunday against Miami. Yeah. Is it time for them to maybe pull him aside and just sit him down and work out a contract and stop playing him in these meaningless games? I don't want to see him have a recurrence of his injury here in the last month and then have them, say they're not going to sign him. I'd rather sign him right now and end his year right now.
Yeah.
That's what I want him here. I mean, you saw how important he is to their culture, to their defense. If you could clone this guy, you would. You got to re-sign him. And I don't want to see him get hurt the rest of the year. So since they're out of it, I say sit him and commit to paying him. And if you can pay him right now, pay him right now.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to pay him right now, get it over with so you don't have to risk his injury. But a couple things on that. I see it two different ways. Bosa the other night said, hey, we're going to figure out who wants to be here. And if you're healthy, you got to suit up. I think the players know, hey, regardless, you need to play, because the whole week we've been talking about, which kind of overshadowed the Devondre Campbell, right? Like him walking out. But you've had players this whole year playing through injury. Like Nick Bosa tried to get through it. He gutted it out. He did play through an injury a couple times this year. And Trent Williams, he's trying to come back. Fred Warner, we know he played through an injury. We know Ricky Pearsall got shot. Mooney Ward doesn't even need to play this season, but he's trying to be out there after everything he's been through. Same thing with Trent Williams, trying to come back, and he has played through injury. So all these guys, they know, like, they've put their body on the line. Debo, I know people hate Debo, but he has played through injury, pneumonia. George Kittle has played banged up. These guys know, like, yeah, okay, I can quit. They are making a lot of money, and they want to show that they really care and they play. They want to be on this team. So I think part of it is they take pride in being out there and playing. And yeah, they can sit on the bench and quit. But for Dre Greenlaw, he has battled so hard to get back to where he is. So I think he just wants to be out there. He said it the other day. I like to go out there and I like to hit people. It gets my anger out. We saw the video his fiance posted, and it was like, man, what a journey for him to come back. And on KMBR, he says it just felt so good to be back out there. It was a long journey. So I think for Dre, like, yeah, we don't want him to get hurt, but he's kind of worked himself so hard that this is the benefits of all that work, to see if he can still be that guy, which we saw on Thursday. Wow, he was incredible. We've definitely missed him. And I think, too, it's a contract season for him. He wants to prove. He wants to put some film out there on tape, Larry, and prove to the Niners, bring me back. But if you don't, I need to show the rest of this league that I got some film that's really good. So it is a pivotal moment for Dre Greenlaw, and I want him back. We all want him back. We heard Dre Greenlaw. You posted the video the other day on your Twitter, or Kevin did, and he said, look, Diablo Lenore said, look, we want him back. Everybody wants him back. But again, going back to the Brock Purdy thing, he's going to command a lot of money. You're going to have to make tough decisions. So the Niners need to see if he can play multiple games.
Man, I mean, I just would hate to see him get hurt. I mean, I don't want to see him get hurt. What a bummer that would be. You on your Twitter, I'm going to share the screen on this one. You had Richard Sherman weighing in, and this is a pretty good little soundbite. So we'll play this little soundbite here from Richard Sherman. Good stuff here from Richard. There we go. Here we go. Boom.
What does Brock Purdy deserve? They did a poll in the Bay Area. 38% say he deserves 20 to 30 million. 29% say he deserves between 31 and 40 million. I hear you. I'm with you. But this is the National Football League. You guys are speaking like fans, and businesses don't quite work that way. I'm sure, you're not happy with his performance right now, but I can name 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 quarterbacks making over 50 million that haven't come close to winning anything. And this guy's been to an NFC championship and a Super Bowl. He's played incredibly well in the postseason. I mean, you could talk about Dak Prescott and his playoff woes. You could talk about Jordan Love and his playoff woes. So when you're negotiating with a team, unless you're willing to move on from Brock Purdy, they're going to be paying him 50+ million. Brock Purdy's going to get his money. I think he's done a great job over the majority of his career. You can say what you want about it, but that's how the National Football League goes, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry.
Good stuff there from Sherm. And then also on your Instagram, you've got this little doozy. This is also Brock from giving out. What's he handing out here?
So he's signing autographs and taking selfies. They have a yearly holiday festival to help out Bay Area families and stuff, and he was signing autographs today.
Here we go.
Yeah, it was good.
One picture.
Ready? There you go, guys. Merry Christmas, guys.
I mean, that's why you pay him, Larry, because he is the face of the franchise.
This guy's too good to be true.
He's a good guy, and that's why I like him. I don't hate him, just because I don't want to pay him $60 million, Larry. He's a good guy. He's the face of the team, man. He's a good dude. I want a selfie with Brock, but I don't want to pay him $60 million, respectfully. Class act, yeah.
What a guy, though. What a guy. Did you have the Greg Papa on the Sacktown Sports thing?
No, I didn't get that one. I was up, but I saw it.
That's probably Kev.
Coach Yak might have posted that one.
Oh, was that Coach Yak?
Might have been, yeah.
Let's see. This is also kind of interesting. This is Kev put this out. This is EPA through the first 40 games. Let me show you this real quick. This is kind of cool. This is Kev tweeted this out. This is the graphic right here. Now it's okay, this is EPA per play, quarterback EPA through the first 40 games. And like all these graphs, you want to be in the top right corner. And who's in the top right corner? Patrick Mahomes. But who is alone in second? It's Brock Purdy. And basically it's EPA per play on the bottom, games with an EPA under less than 0 is this one. So Tom Brady, believe it or not, is way, way down here. But still, nonetheless, which always makes you skeptical of anything where you see Brady's way down there. But Mahomes and Purdy, as far as EPA through the first 40 games, pretty good. Right there.
Pretty good. But you know, there's more than 40 games to a career. But good start. He's had a great start to his career, Larry. He's had a fantastic start to his career. I agree.
I'm asking Kev where the Papa video. You think it's on Coach Yak?
Probably.
Okay, let me check. I'll stop sharing there, and then we'll go over to Coach Yak and see if we can. Wait a second. There we go. We'll go over to Coach Yak's thing here and see if that's indeed where it came from. But Greg popped on with Sacktown Sports, and here it is. He's concerned about Brock's struggles in bad weather. Let's play this, and then we'll comment on this before we play our supers and get out of here. Here is Greg Papa on Sacktown Sports, talking about Brock Purdy. And it looks like this is their morning.
I love
show.
Brock. I was on him before anybody else.
No, that I don't want to hear. But here we go. This is Jason on the left, and Dave, Carmichael Dave on the right. And Dave over here on the left. Here we go.
Greg, is there any part of this season in your mind of Brock Purdy's season that would give John Lynch any reason for hesitation on going forward with him?
Yeah, that's the tricky one. Jace, I love Brock. I was on him before anybody else when I saw him in training camp and OTAs that rookie year. He's one guy on the team that just goes through his progressions, boom, 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 and plays quarterback the way it's supposed to be played. But he's small and small hands. And then he got into games because of injury to Trey and Jimmy, and he balled out. We know the story. But there are moments where the weather's an issue. It's an issue. You know, you're not going to play in dome stadiums in 80-degree California every week. You're going to have to go to Buffalo and even your own home stadium. It rains here. As we know, in December and January, it never stops. And the game he had in Cleveland last year on the shores of Lake Erie, ball coming out of his hand. He could not control the football. The home game against Green Bay, the divisional playoff last year, he put a glove on his left hand. It was raining, misting, and took it off after one series, didn't like it, could not control the ball. Figured it out at the very end. Went 6 out of 7 on the last drive to win the game. And the one miss was a drop by George Kittle. But then, you know, you go to Buffalo in a snowstorm, and on the pullback, the ball slips out of his hands. Last night, trying to hit Kittle down the left sideline. It was tight coverage. I don't know how he got it so far down the field, Jace, but the ball just literally squirted out of his hands. And I didn't see obvious situations where he couldn't control it, but he missed throws. The one to Ricky right before they were going to try the Hail Mary on the outcut, and Ricky was hobbling, Ricky Pearsall, and looked like he went off with a knee after that. I don't know if he was slow getting to where he's supposed to be, but you got to hit that throw. He's a wide open pocket, you know, U-shaped pocket, wide open. You got to hit it. And he missed him. And then he underthrew Ricky on the post route. The deep one that he got behind Keller Witherspoon could have been a touchdown. Obviously, the one to Darius Williams where, you know, he threw it in over Jennings. And there was one to Debo over the middle last night. And the lack of size, sometimes you think when he's sitting in the midline, they call it the well right in the pocket. Can he see over all these big guys? These guys are huge in there. And Brock is 6 feet 5/8 of an inch tall. And a couple times before he got sacked, he literally jumped up off the ground like he was trying to see. I think he tried one pass when he jumped, like a jump shot, because I think he couldn't see where to go with the ball. He can't see from the midline. So yeah, I don't think he's gonna be the quarterback here, but I think you got to be creative how to move him, how to get him out of the pocket, how to sprint him, how to roll with him. If he is undersized and he has a hard time seeing, you got to give him a sight line. You got to move him. Drew Brees would get up on his tippy toes and make throws, but Drew was so talented for so long. Honestly, if he was 6'4", 6'5", Drew Brees, and what was he, 6 feet flat? How many Super Bowls would that guy have won with Sean Payton in that offense and those receivers? He just in critical moments and big plays, the lack of height really came into being. And then what he did with the hand size. How does he wear gloves? Does he learn to play with gloves for the tack? Tom Brady played with gloves. Peyton Manning played with gloves even indoors. He learned to play with gloves at all times. He's got to figure out a way to see better, and even in all kinds of weather, being able to just grip the football, which will allow him to grip it and rip it with confidence.
So there you go. And it's interesting, Greg is, on one hand, he's saying, hey, look, this is going to be their quarterback. This is going to be their guy. He's not going anywhere, but then he's the voice of the team, and he's got lots of issues with Brock when it comes to throwing the football and wet football and this and that. Does he play with the glove? He hasn't. At times he suggested that he maybe would or should. What do you think of that? I mean, it's an interesting soundbite. It's Greg kind of stream of consciousness talking about, Brock's going to be here, and he kind of maintains that, but he also kind of maintains that there are issues with his play based on the games he's played this year. How do you make sense of all that?
Yeah, no, and I think he has valid concerns, and I think that's why a lot of fans are rightfully, a little stressed out that, yeah, we're paying this guy a lot of money, but he has, the example is, and they brought it up when Baldy was talking today, since Baltimore, right? He's kind of struggled. That was the game that put it in, magnifying glass, whoa, he threw all the picks. He didn't look good. He bounced back a little bit, but
he looked good against Detroit in the second half.
Yeah, he did. But I mean, ever since then, it's the magnifying glass has gotten bigger, and people have really kind of started looking at him because contract season, right? Rightfully so. So his mistakes are bigger, and when he makes a mistake, it gets looked at even more and more. He's had great moments, but I think he's right. The moments he's had struggles, weather games, and maybe he does need a glove. So those are concerns. If you're going to pay a guy this much money, you have to look at everything. And anytime you make a big decision in life, the way I do it is you got to make your pros, you got to make your cons. And I think the Niners, they got to make the pros and the cons. And why should he get paid? Okay, the NFC championships. Okay, Super Bowl. Okay, he owes almost MVP. Okay, he set franchise records, right? Those are good reasons to pay him. And then you have to look at anytime you make a big decision in life, buying a car, buying a house, you look at the pros and the cons. If you don't, you're just living life on the edge. And that's not a lot of people, especially in the NFL and the business like this. You have to look at both sides. So I think Greg Papa's looking at both sides. And I think he's right, is the Niners are going to bring him back because logically, we talked about this tonight, there's not a lot of options. You're not going to trade for a quarterback. You're not going to get Kirk Cousins. You're not getting Russell Wilson. You're not getting Sam Darnold. Joe Burrow's not coming to your team. So the option, the most safe option is getting Brock. So again, having to pay him, they're going to go into negotiations. We talked about it earlier. If you're talking to the agent, you're going to bring up these, if you're John Lynch or whoever's Parag Marat, you're going to say, hey, he struggles in weather. Look at his stats here. Look at this. Ever since Denver or ever since Baltimore, these are his stats. Those are logical things that are going to be brought up, and Greg Papa's bringing it up. So, yeah, is he concerned? Yeah. Should he be concerned? Absolutely, because these are realistic things that can happen in any season, and it's just things you have to look at. And not only that is, yeah, okay, Brock's a great guy. We love him, this and that. But there are realistic struggles, and everybody has flaws, and those are Brock's flaws, and you have to bring them to the table. And I think the last point I'll make is one of the reasons I think Niner fans are so scared about paying him is look at the history of paying guys the big money. After they get paid, they're not the same. Debo, Brandon Ayuk, Nick Bosa to an extent. Fred Warner, when he first got paid, he wasn't the same, and now he's back and better than ever. But certain times you pay a guy, and you're just not the same. So I think there's some PTSD out there, and I think it's granted.
It's a tough call. It's a tough call either way because there's no easy answers. And it's not like it's real cut and dried. It's not a cut and dried situation. If it was me, my first choice, I'd bring Brock back. I would bring him back. I would have Tanner Mordecai in that room. And then I want one veteran, but a better veteran than Josh Dobbs and a better veteran than Brandon Allen.
Okay.
But cheap. And then I want a rookie. And I would probably, the three guys I have my eye on in this draft are Riley Leonard, Notre Dame, Haynes King, Georgia Tech, Tyler Van Dyke, who started at Miami, now is at Wisconsin. Those guys are all going to be day 3 quarterbacks, and I'd be interested in all 3. We'll see who stands up. But that would be my ideal quarterback room. Brock, Mordecai, let's say Andy Dalton, and we'll say one of those 3 guys.
Andy Dalton, I like that. That's a good backup.
Andy Dalton, who's 37, but I think he's a better quarterback than Brandon Allen. I think he's a more substantial body than Allen. And I think you can win some games with Andy Dalton, where I don't think you can win games with Dobbs or with Brandon Allen. I like them, but I don't think you can win with them. So that's my room next year. Who's in your quarterback room next year?
I didn't give much thought to Andy Dalton, the Red Rocket. I like the Red Rock. I like Andy Dalton, but you could probably get him for cheap. I know they're going to get a veteran. I like Tanner Mordecai. Maybe you see what you have on him. He could be QB3. I think I don't see him as QB2 right now. I think you need to get a good veteran, because if you're going to pay Brock all this money and you get an O-line, and if hopefully he doesn't, but if he got hurt, you need to have a really good, decent backup. So that's the question. I don't think you can draft one that, you can throw in right away. So it's going to have to be one of these outlier quarterbacks that you had mentioned, and I honestly think, and people are going to hate this one, I think it's Danny Dimes. I think Daniel Jones will be a good backup QB2. And we saw what Kyle Shanahan did with Sam Darnold a couple years ago. He was a serviceable backup, and if push came to shove, he was thrown into the fire. And I think that's what Danny Dimes is going to do. He's going to go to the Niners and be the reclamation.
Is your project. 1, Daniel Jones is your 2, Mordecai is your 3? Is that what you're going with?
I think so.
That's not bad. All right, let's hit some of the supers here. 49er_throwback says Kyle Shanahan needs to reinvent himself. Steve Young said that. It looks like Nick Sorensen is back for another year. Who said that? Name me quarterbacks that don't have bad years. All quarterbacks have bad years. I'm wondering why 49er_throwback says Nick Sorensen is back for another year. Why would he say that? Is there anything out there? Is there anything out there about Sorensen?
Yeah. So if you heard there's reports of what Nick Bosa said yesterday to the media. He probably got this out.
I like the whole D-line.
He likes the whole D-line and how he gave Nick Sorensen a vote of confidence, basically, is what he's saying.
Okay. So that's what it's based on. We got this one from Easy Tino. He says, Brock Purdy just signed the first endorsement deal with Toyota in February. It's much more than performance on the field. The 49ers are going to pay him no less than $55 million because it's good for business. I hate to hear that, but that's what Easy Tino is saying. James Mockastad says, Brock doesn't have what Sam has, period. Sam is bigger. Sam's got a bigger body with a bigger arm, but I also don't think that Sam takes care of the football like Brock. He can't move. And he looked really good with Addison and Jefferson. Something tells me if you got Sam Darnold, they probably would keep Addison and Jefferson in Minnesota. So that would be my concern. If I could get Sam Darnold and he came with Jefferson and Addison, then it would be a much easier decision.
Go get me Jefferson now.
Exactly.
Please.
Or Addison. I mean, let's be honest. Both those guys would be the Niners' #1 receiver. I don't think there's any doubt. What do you got cooking the rest of the week, Raj? What do you got going?
Same old. Just posting all the content like always. Be a little bit busier with some other stuff I got going. So I got to finish my holiday shopping. So I may not be as active on live stream, but we'll be cooking as much as we can.
That's going to do it for us. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Thanks to Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles. And thanks to Better for sponsoring this live stream. And thanks to all of you guys for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube. For Raj, I'm Larry. Thanks to all of you guys in the chat. Have a great night, everybody. Peace.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you won't get exactly what you asked.